Joe Biden did an interview with Howard Stern that has right-wingers furious, most notably over his vocal willingness to debate Trump at any time, any place, because they've spent months trying to caricature this fantasy that Biden is shivering in his boots and just too scared to debate Trump, despite Trump being the one who was the first candidate in a primary to not debate his opponents, and Biden having called him out in numerous speeches and absolutely shutting the House down at his State of the Union. But he also took the opportunity in this interview to further stress the importance of this election, the differences between the two, and some new successes that him and his cabinet are unveiling. But let's start with his debate challenge.
Can I tell you a fantasy I had?
Sure.
I don't know if you're going to debate your opponent.
I am somewhere. I don't know when. Yeah. I'm happy to debate him.
This is how I would handle it. Tell me if I'm nuts. Well, I am nuts, but tell me if this is accurate. I would stand there on stage with Trump and I would repeat over and over again, "Excuse me, please find me 11,000 votes so that I can win the election." I would just repeat that over and over again. And then I'd say to the audience, what are we debating? A man picked up the phone and wanted to say, fake the election, give me 11,000 votes. I don't know how any American who loves this country, that's the end of the debate.
I love how nonchalant these things are to him in comparison to Trump as well. He's just like, yeah, we're going to do it eventually. Who cares? And the way he says it makes it seem like it's already been in the works. While on the other side, Trump has to parade around and yell about this every day, trying to make it seem like, oh, Biden's weak and he's scared to debate him, when Trump is quite literally cannon fodder. He is the easiest man to attack in a debate, from his weak presidential record, his failed promises as president, his scheme to steal the election, the fact that he failed at that as well, 88 charges, being liable for sexual assault. I mean, how could Biden even miss wherever he takes aim at?
They were storming the Capitol.
And a police officer died.
Yeah, and he would say nothing. He was sitting in that office off that dining area off the Oval Office for 3 hours and said nothing. I was supposed to make a speech on the economy that day. Instead, I made a speech I was in Delaware on that issue, because I was elected president, but I wasn't sworn in yet. It was derelict. It was almost criminal. He did nothing. He just sat there and watched what was happening. Not a single, and now he wants to he calls them patriots and victims, and says he's going to pardon them all if he's reelected.
How do some of the guys that you served in the Senate with, I'm talking about Republicans, how are they going along with this?
Well, I don't think, look, this is not your father's Republican Party.
And it's a far cry from it. I mean, this isn't even Mitt Romney's Republican Party from 12 years ago, or John McCain's Republican Party from 16. The clip of John McCain defending Obama from the one woman will still bring a tear to my eye. And it's just crazy to think how far removed the right is from that moment, not even 2 decades later, where now it's built on hatred, fear, racism, vitriol, and supremacy, making sure that they're on top and stay on top by ensuring that those below them stay on the bottom. It's the party of the straight white billionaire. And we saw this front and center in Trump's first presidential run, and he's gearing to take off the training wheels if he gets a second one where he doesn't have to worry about getting reelected. I mean, Project 2025 is a real threat to anyone who doesn't fit inside their insanely narrow worldview, and they're going to impose that if they get the chance.
Now, when an airline, for some reason, screws you up and doesn't let you, whether you can't make the flight, they used to give you credit, but now they are forced to refund you. And I think that's a huge deal.
Well, there's a lot of those, Howard. The fact is that when you're raised and you come up in a middle-class family, all this stuff matters to you. It matters to those little items that they say, well, it only costs this, only costs that.
Yeah.
It matters. And so there's a lot of junk fees, too. For example, banks can't charge you $35 for overdrafts anymore. They'll charge you $3 or $8. I mean, whole range of things that matter. My dad used to say at the end of the month is how much you got left.
Yeah.
How much you got left.
These are more really cool small measures that Joe Biden has enacted that do massively affect the middle and lower classes in ways that rich-minded folk like Donald Trump would never even think of, let alone ever do. Rather than flight cancellations just giving you vouchers or credit, now they have to give you cash refunds of the exact amount before you leave. They have to do it on the spot, as well as bank overdraft fees not only being for over $35, but limited to as low as $3 in most cases, effectively removing these financial strains that affect middle and lower class families in a multitude of ways, while also preventing additional ways that rich people increase their capital at the behest of these lower classes who are already struggling enough. Biden also proposed to raise the top marginal capital gains tax to 45% and eliminated tax loopholes for crypto bros, which is absolutely based, though I think it should be higher at the top marginal rate. This would only apply to people with over $100 million invested roughly. I'm here for 45% as low as 10 million, if not like 5 million or so. I mean, I'll try to be a nice guy, you know. This is the highest it would be since the late 70s and back in the 60s, which, by the way, is when we also saw the most economic growth, the biggest compression of the classes, building from the middle out, and business investment as high as we've ever seen. These kinds of taxes could also lead to more money for social safety nets, welfare, roads, schools, the kinds of things that working middle class and definitely lower class people rely on a lot more than tax cuts that you're going to get from Donald Trump. So this is a major win for the working class if this budget is to get approved.